If you normally throw out the white plies from your beautiful napkins, you may want to go into your garbage bin and dig them back out. Hi, I'm Ingrid Carlson, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. If you are returning, a big welcome back. This space for making lovely things feels warmer now that you're here. And if you're new, I'm so glad that you found this cozy corner of creativity. I would love for you to consider subscribing, like, and maybe share this video with someone that you think might really enjoy it. Because today we are making faux age tape, and the best news is there are no alcohol inks or alcohol markers involved at all. We are actually using up some of our discarded napkin plies, you know, those white plies that usually end up in the garbage, and we are going to make some faux tape. So let's get started. I'm starting off with the base, which is going to be a piece of parchment paper. You could also use freezer paper or wax paper. You just want to make sure that the shiny side is up. I'm also going to go ahead and lay down my napkin on it, and I'm going to show you different ways. One where I soak the napkin in some water first, then where I don't, and you can decide for yourself which of the techniques you like best. And this is definitely one of those projects that is very free for interpretation. If you like your tape to be more yellow, then use more yellow paint. And I'm just using some acrylic paint here. I'm using a yellow ochre, and I believe this is raw sienna, but it doesn't have a label anymore. So I'm just going to mix it and eyeball the color that I think that the age tape would be. I think that the next batch that I make, I would go harder or heavier on the yellow more so than the red. I think that would give more of an authentic tape, but this method works really wonderfully. The best part about this project is how playful you can be. You are literally just going to paint on the tissue paper, and that reminds me, you could also use tissue paper for this, but I was thinking that most of us discard the white pieces of napkin after we're done, and this is a great use for them. It's also really great for any of us that have any aversions to alcohol inks, because you know, they're on the toxic side and they're smelly and they can be really messy and stain your clothes and stuff. Whereas acrylic inks are a lot easier to clean up. Here you can have fun, paint however you want, leave some white spaces, soak the whole thing in. It really doesn't matter. It depends on the look you're going for. And remember that when we glue down napkin or tissue paper in decoupage, it completely disintegrates into your page. So that's why this is such a great technique. I find that adding water intermittently here really helps the paint to glide onto the napkin. But be aware that the more water you use, the less paint and the more it'll lighten up once it starts to dry. You can start to see here where I'm going to start adding a little more water as well as more yellow paint, and the color of this paper I think is a little closer to an aged tape, But like I said, I would still, even afterwards, add more yellow and just a touch of the brown so that it gives it that antique look without it being completely brown. But if you like it brown, you might want to add more brown instead of less. And I think that a great color to try with this technique would be raw umber because it's got that really earthy feel to it, and I think it would make some lovely tape. As I was working with the tissue paper, you can see that it starts to really crinkle as it gets wet. And so if you want to, you can peel it up and then just very lightly stretch it. Remember, we are working with wet napkins here, so they can have a tendency to tear. So you just want to be gentle with it. But you can see here that it starts to smooth out. But I'm going to be honest, when we are done, those little grooves and the little buckling, it actually adds a lot of character to it. So I don't think that it's a bad idea to keep it like that. These are my papers up close before they are completely dry, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to dry them using a heat tool, but you can just let them air dry. They'll probably take about an hour or so depending on how much water you use. But wait until you hear this wonderful crinkle. As I played around with the napkins, I found that the best technique in order to dry it is to make sure that I was drying the backside as well. And so I'm going to gently lift up a little corner and start drying the back and keep folding as I'm drying until I get to the very end. And I did this once the paper was about, I would say, 80% dry. Doesn't this look dreamy? Okay, now let's go ahead and decorate some pages. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off of the napkin. That's the other thing, is that this piece of napkin is going to give me tons and tons of faux tape. So that's another positive of doing it like this. And you can cut your edges so that they're straight. You can cut them at an angle, or you can rip them so that they mimic tape once it's ripped. And that is my favorite. I'm going to show you in a little bit where I had cut it out and so it had like a straight edge, and then I took some tweezers and kind of scuffed up the edges so that it looks a little more organic, and I feel like that is more true to life and how tape reacts after time. I'm going to start off by making a quick little cluster using some Tim Holtz as well as some of my old printables. And I am simply going to just layer a few things on top of each other very easily. I'm not going to make them very bulky or anything. And I'm going to show you how once we add this little piece of faux tape, it really transforms the piece and it gives it so much texture and life. To attach my tape, I'm actually going to use my glue mixture, which is 2 parts glue and 1 part water. So it's just barely diluted, and I'm going to attach it using this. Once I start using this glue to attach it, that's when I get another idea, which is coming up soon. So make sure that you stay tuned. This tape is really fun to make and to add to pieces that maybe you have laying around. A great example is this masterboard that we made together, and I'm just going to take a little tape and put it in 2 different areas of the masterboard. And I love using it like this because it is so spontaneous, and when you cut the pieces for the masterboard out, you might cut a whole strip of the tape, maybe you cut just a little piece out of the tape, and that's what aids in that like magical fun where you don't know what you're going to get at the end. This really is a better project than I even thought originally. I had my doubts if it was going to even work, and I love finding a solution that is non-toxic or fairly non-toxic. And I struggle sometimes with alcohol inks, although I love them and I love the look of age tape with alcohol inks. There is something about them, using them with being in an enclosed space that's kind of dangerous. And so I really like this option to be able to have something else that I can use instead of using them. I'm going to let you watch the next cluster that I make, and then I'm going to be right back with the other technique. When I started working with my glue mixture and I put some glue on top, you can see there where it's not dry, but it gives that kind of more translucent feel to the paper because of the shininess. I thought, what if we add a layer of the glue on top of the napkin to take this to the next level? And it did not disappoint. So I took a portion of a napkin and I laid it back onto the parchment paper, and I added a generous helping of the glue on top. And I'm going to tell you right now, it did not disappoint. Once I started laying the glue on the tissue paper that has the paint on it, I thought, what if I laid the paint, since I had leftover paint, directly on the parchment paper? And then I was thinking, well, it's not very see-through, or and so what I did was I did a layer of the glue, then a layer of the paint, and then another layer of the glue. So we will see what this looks like after it dries, and I'm very, very excited. It's evening time now, and this has had a chance to completely dry. So on this one, the experiment that was the glue, paint, glue, it did not work. It's still wet and got on my fingers. This is the towel or the napkin that has been painted, and then I put a layer of the glue and water mixture, and this one is working. And you can see that on the underside it's got that gloss, and that's exactly what I was looking for, because I think that's going to mimic the look of tape. Let's start to see it there. That is really nice. And then we're going to mess around with this one and see if we can peel it up. It looks like, yeah, that is still wet, but the majority of it's dry. Oh, and I got my nails done in between. So I'm going to see if I can pull this up, and then we're definitely going to play with this one. That ended up coming off like a dream, and it feels like a dream. It is so nice and smooth, and it's giving me exactly the texture that I was looking for. And so now that I've played with it, I would give you a couple tips. I would add a little less paint to your paper, add a little more of the glue. That way you have more of a transparent feel. And I would definitely go more towards a yellow instead of a brown. Now, as far as this, which was the glue with the paint kind of mixed in together, and it was a little less paint than the other one that was a complete mess. This actually did not work as faux tape, but once you see me peel it up here, you're going to see it kind of resembles bark. And although it was a fail for what we wanted it for, I do think this is something fun for you to definitely try out in different colors, because I think this glued onto your page would add a texture kind of like a cheesecloth or a fabric would, and I think that you could have a lot of fun making these. I'm going to go ahead and let you watch the rest of the video on your own and just enjoy the softness ASMR of me creating my last and probably my favorite cluster of today. But I wanted to remind you today that you are wonderfully made. You are fully seen, and you are part of a greater story. Your days were written with care, and your life carries eternal meaning. I thank you so much for being here and for all of your comments, your shares, your likes, your love that you have just poured on me. I can never really put into words how much it has truly meant to me that you guys enjoy these videos and that you get any joy and inspiration out of them. I am so thankful for you. I also want to remind you that if you're not already following, this is a great time to pause the video, hit the subscribe button, and make sure that you hit the bell so you get notified every time a new video comes out. For right now, I have videos coming out every night, and so you can catch them at night or the next morning. And of course, if this video brought you joy and you enjoyed it, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up and send it to someone that you love. Until next time, love you. Bye.